Hello, and welcome to the PC Gaming Weekspot, your recap of the last 7 days in PC video gaming. My name is Colm Ahern, and joining me this week is a man that might be getting a haircut soon, like me, this weekend. Sorry, Matthew, I didn't come up with anything. It's Matthew Castle.
That's fine. Hello, Colm. How are you doing?
I am not too bad, Matthew. I'm not too bad. I am indeed getting a haircut this weekend. Very excited because it is an absolute disgrace at this stage. Just trying to keep it pinned down is tough.
I actually have to tuck mine behind my headphones in order for it not to keep sweeping over and looking terrible. I also apologise if the lighting's a little harsh this week. We're recording a little earlier than usual, so the lighting conditions are different. So I've got this slightly kind of sort of Victorian scholar thing going on, kind of lit by candlelight. It looks like we're doing this late into the night.
No, it's good. I enjoy it. No. I enjoy it. But yes, we are recording this a little bit earlier in the day. We are recording this a little bit earlier than we normally do. So, you know, if between us recording it now and you actually watching or listening to this and Microsoft has bought somebody else again, you know, and it's big news and whatever, we apologise. We'll talk about that on the next episode of the PC Gaming Weekspot. But we do have some things to discuss, Matthew. So, you know, some things. So
something.
Yeah.
Got a few muesli. I'm thinking of cereal. It's the morning. A few measly info snacks for my gob. This is God. You can tell it's earlier than usual.
Yes, I
Should
do.
have had a coffee.
Grab your news crank for me, please.
Info snacks for his gob.
So, after 30 years at Capcom, Street Fighter figurehead Yoshiniro Ono, it is early, has left the company to become president and COO of developer Delightworks. In a few tweets, Ono said, quote, "I'm going to be working in a studio that is a little different from the one I'm used to. I'm also going to be looking at development from a different perspective than in the past. There may be some distance between me and everyone in the fighting game community for a while. I may be away from the fighting game community for a while, but I'm looking forward to spending time with you again when I get the chance. I appreciate your continuing support." This is the man who sort of reinvigorated Street Fighter, isn't it? Like, he's kind of credited with a lot of the success when it comes to Street Fighter 4. So a loss when it comes to Capcom.
Yeah, a very charismatic figurehead. You know about his little Blanca, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That isn't a euphemism. It's see, whenever he has photos with fans, he's got like a little sort of cheap plastic toy of Blanca going, and he always puts it in photos. And when he tweeted about this new company, he'd hidden it in the logo of the company.
Nice.
So he bought a little bit of Capcom with him.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice. In other news, the 24 hours in Resident Evil Village demo, which was actually going to be an hour in 2 sections of Resident Evil Village, is now the 168 hours in Resident Evil Village demo. Because, so you'll be able to download the demo between 1 o'clock in the morning on the 2nd of May to 1 o'clock in the morning on the 10th of May. You'll still only be able to play it for an hour, but you now have an entire week to download and play it, whereas previously it was just a single day. So, you know, that's good, I guess.
That's good. I mean, by the time you watch this demo will be live. But I'm pretty sure this is just the two demos, separate demos that we've played, shoved together.
Yes, yeah, this is the castle and the village, wasn't it? I think it was called. It's interesting, right? Because you can spend a bit of time in either or a lot of time in one. I think if I hadn't yet used my demo time in it, I would probably spend more time in the castle. It's got a bit more going on, that demo.
It's got like the shop and the upgrade system a
Oh,
little bit
yeah.
in there. You can go down into the dungeons and fight some guys. I was a little like on it. And around this week, well, obviously the game comes out and we'll be getting reviews for it. But yeah, hopefully the final thing will all together a bit better.
Fingers crossed. But one thing the final thing won't have, Matthew, is reverse, because Capcom has... I don't think they've given a reason, again, at time of recording, but they've said it is now going to be launching the multiplayer mode of Resident Evil Village. That's going to be launching in summer 2021.
Ooh.
Which... I guess there was the beta, not the most recent one, but with the one before where they just had to cancel it outright because it was just a shambles. Like, yeah, I played it. I talked about it on the last show, and I was like, this seems all right. You did, yeah. What were those monsters about, eh?
I literally just told you that. I still feel bad about that, by the way.
But it's I mean, who's coming to it? If you're coming to Resident Evil Village for anything extra, it's the Mercenaries mode. So, I don't know. I don't think anyone's crying over waiting a little while longer to play Reverse.
So.
One thing you won't have to wait too long for, because it's out on the 21st of May, is Knockout City. And brilliantly, right? Because I remember I played the beta of that as well, and I came on here talking about it. And I think even when I started talking about it, I wasn't sure if it was free to play or not. I sort of took it for granted that it was. Well, it's not. You have to pay actual money for it, but you don't if you're an Xbox Game Pass for PC subscriber. So yeah, it's going to be launching on Xbox Game Pass. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, that's all right.
That is good, because like this,
chuck some balls around for free.
Yeah, who doesn't love chucking balls
I
around?
can do that for free in my back garden.
But yeah, it's.
Actually, that's a lie. I don't own a ball. I'm going to put my hands up. I don't own a ball.
It's good. I appreciate your honesty, Matthew.
Do you own a ball?
I own a kind of a cushiony ball, I guess. A spherical shaped cushion.
That's a cushion. What you're describing right now is a cushion, not a ball.
I got it from IKEA years ago, but it's like it looks like a ball. It's for the purposes of it is to kick it around rather than use it as a cushion on a sofa. Where is it? I don't know. Tune in to next week's episode of the Weekspot where I provide
for the grand reveal. It's a bit like when you get YouTube channels where they're like, I've reached whatever 10,000 subscribers, so it's time for my face reveal. Where they reveal the face behind the voice. You're going to do a ball reveal when we hit 200,000 subscribers.
Sounds a bit saucy. But in other news, moving on swiftly, various folks behind Netflix series such as The Witcher and Shadow and Bone have plans to develop films and TV shows set in the World of Darkness universe thing, which of course is the overarching universe of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, or Vampire the Masquerade, I suppose I should say, and your favourite, Matthew, Werewolf. So we might get a Vampire the Masquerade TV show before Bloodlines 2. Wouldn't that be exciting?
I don't know, it's just anything fancy, that's what people like, isn't it?
True enough.
That'd probably be alright. I imagine it's got the law for it.
Yeah, definitely. So
it'd be good if they set it sort of in the early noughties, like when they made, because a big part of like Bloodline 1's charm is it's got like this very big sort of late 90s, early noughties kind of energy. I'm not saying it's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but like the kind of clubs and the way the I don't know, the fashion and the way kind of people carry themselves and talk feels very of the era. It's quite fun. To me, in my head, for some reason, Vampire feels like it should be set like 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah. No, I would back you on that creative decision. In unrelated telly/film video game news, Mortal Kombat now has a UK release date.
Nice.
So we will all be able to finally watch it now. It is coming on the 6th of May. They haven't, again, at time of recording, they haven't mentioned how you can watch this, but the excellent Godzilla vs. Kong, sponsors of the PC Gaming Weekspot, that came to Prime Video on iTunes and all that, and it was a £15 rental. So this will probably be similar.
It's weird. So I know that's like cheaper than the price of 2 cinema tickets at most cinema chains, but when you're looking at it on the Amazon store, I'm always like, 15 quid just to like fill an evening. Just can't do it. And the other problem with Amazon is that like there are like tiers of pricing that go down, and they have this special like $1.99 for like Prime members, like special offers. And it's got to the point now where I guess a bit like with Steam sales, I won't buy a film until it's hit the $1.99 bracket, because like every film I have bought for more than $1.99 has then like a week later been $1.99 or gets added to Netflix for free. Yeah, I mean, I got really burned when we watched Downton Abbey in the middle of lockdown.
What you paid the full? We
didn't pay the full price, but we were looking at Downton Abbey and we thought, you know what, we'll probably watch this at some point because we're both of us getting on a bit in our years, and that sounds like a good evening to me. And we were like, how low will it go? And it hit this £5 mark, and we were like, let's do it. Let's go for Downton Abbey. And then it was like a 99p special. Like a week later, and curse it. It's terrible as well, which that
doesn't help.
Need saying, but I just. If lockdown has done anything, it's turned me into someone who will buy digital rentals of films, which is something I would never have done before. Like, the idea of that is just preposterous. But like, once you're in, you're in. You got to do something to fill the evenings.
Exactly, and then you're in their ecosystem, so you're going to spend more money, and they have you. They fucking have you, the bastards. Those are your information snacks for the week. So now it is time to talk about some other video game related news in headlines and hot takes.
Hello, I'm Hugh Edwards. Working in news is exciting.
Yes! Headlines and hot takes is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where we take you through some other maybe bigger news or news more near and dear to our hearts. And I know this one is very near and dear to my co-host's heart. Outer Wilds, a video game which I'm pretty sure no one would have thought, it doesn't scream downloadable content, I suppose. Maybe not, but it might be getting some of that delicious DLC because last Wednesday there was a little leak circulating around the Twitters about something called Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye. And the following day, the game's publisher, Annapurna Interactive, just quote tweeted, I don't know, was it the first person who found this, but they quote tweeted it and shared a little eye emoji, which I'm pretty sure when the youngsters do that, Matthew, it means, look, what's going on here?
And it could be also that it's got eye in the title.
True. It could be that as well.
Like, I don't think there is an emoji for the concept of, like, the universe. Wait, what's the DLC called?
Echoes of the Eye. But no, this tweet from Annapurna isn't confirmation that it's actually going to be happening. But, you never know. So yeah, it popped up on Steam DB and it was added to that on the 28th of April. So yeah, so very, very recent. And I don't know, we'll see. Like what? I don't know. The fact that Annapurna sort of acknowledged it would make me think, well, there must be something here. So I don't know, Matthew. What would you like from an Outer Wilds DLC?
Well, one, I'll say like, hell yes, more Outer Worlds can only be a good thing. I absolutely adore that game. I mean, it's sort of a surprise because, if you've played the game, and it's quite hard to talk about some of the game without like spoiling it. It's very it's a very like tight knit thing. You're basically in this little solar system where which is sort of trapped in a time loop where the sort of sun goes supernova and destroys everything at the end of every time loop, and then you're kind of reset to the beginning. Some people think that's a spoiler. That's the concept of the game. I refuse to apologize for that, as I did in my original review video. I remember people whining about that back then. So that's.
I feel like that's
baggage I cut. Yeah, that's the concept of the game. That isn't a spoiler. Talking about this game without saying it's in a time loop or that the sun explodes, practically impossible. That's like going, oh, it's about, it's a game set in space for 20 minutes. Just doesn't do it justice. But yeah, the whole thing is you're basically sort of excavating the secrets of this solar system by flying between different planets, using what you learn in the next time loop to get like a little further or a little kind of deeper. There's no way you can do the whole story in one run. This is where speedrunners come out and say, well, actually, yeah, you probably can, but you wouldn't know to without some hefty cheating. And because of that, like there's very little fat in it. Everything's accounted for. Everything is a breadcrumb in a trail towards like quite a definitive ending, which involves something called the Eye of the Universe, which obviously the title of this DLC, I say it echoes. I mean, it's literally called Echoes of the Eye. And so it's kind of hard to see. Like, it's not like a game where you could go, oh, we're going to add another planet. It's not like. It's not like the Outer Worlds, for example, where they can say in this DLC you visit this other planet because that solar system, galaxy, whatever, isn't like a big functioning place. It's just a map screen that you can basically add anything to of self-contained areas. This isn't like that. So is this set in the aftermath of the world? Is the aftermath of what happens in the game? Is it set beforehand? Like, is it going to be like a prequel thing? Because a lot of it's about excavating and like the kind of culture that kind of came before you. Are we going to see some of that firsthand? I literally can't kind of envision it. But then at the same time, this game is kind of galaxy brain. It's made by people who sort of think a little bit beyond what you or I are maybe capable of. So it shouldn't really come as a surprise that it's hard to sort of guess what they're going to do, if that makes sense. They're like mega brains. I mean, Outer Wilds came out, what, 2
years
ago now?
Mm.
So, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Maybe a year and a half. And it's got a reasonable chunk of time. I'm really puzzled by this one. When I saw it, I was like, I can't picture it. I just can't see what they could possibly do. Because what people like about this game is kind of, it's the whole package. It's the scale of it. It's the kind of concept of it. And without going, here's a second solar system in a time loop. It's kind of hard to imagine. I mean, the game has some kind of a few areas which are on certain planets, which are maybe they feel a bit more contained and puzzly. I don't want to say like Zelda dungeony, but there's a couple of things that kind of almost lean that way. I could see that you could do a sort of some self-contained puzzle using the game's interesting like mechanics that it's already introduced, where you could maybe delve into that. Also, the nature of the eye, which again, I don't want to get into spoilers, but like it kind of behaves in a slightly, let's say sort of slightly like more magical way, I would say, than some of the other parts of the game. So in theory, you could lean into something that can like whip you between different environments or, take you to some sort of self-contained sort of mad places, which, it can do. So, there's it's definitely potential. Oh my God, how exciting. What I don't see is this team doing anything like super cheap or clumsy, considering the game's beloved. It is brilliant. It's critically acclaimed. I don't think you'd take a hammer to that reputation just for some cheap, just for a cheap win.
Because I kind of didn't even really think of it until you mentioned it. Like, would there be scope for some sort of prequel DLC? And kind of, like looking at that ancient, like the...
they could. I think it would be a bit odd if it was just sort of like, here's this solar system, but as it was before, you just sort of fly around and meet everyone in person who beforehand only really existed as like audio logs, basically.
Right.
I think that could be quite a strange way of tackling this. Also, Echoes does suggest sort of like something after, like maybe like clarifying kind of sort of what happens at the end. I'll put my hand up and say I don't 100% understand some of the stuff that happens at the end of Outer Wilds. Like it's a bit it's not like full 2001 light tunnel, but it is kind of it's slightly out there. Probably open to interpretation, but yeah, it's kind of hard to picture. I mean, the other thing is, like, I will say, I think people have exhausted the solar system as it is in this game because it takes you everywhere. I mean, really, if by the end of it, it feels like you know the place inside and out. I think it'd be quite hard just to like layer some stuff on there and say like,
here's a planet that we forgot.
Yeah, or like here's this planet you went to before, but now there's like, a couple of extra buildings on it. DLC's kind of, on the whole, has kind of taught us to sort of, not expect anything particularly special in games. It's very rare that anyone uses it for something like genuinely interesting. But this team is super interesting. They made a super interesting game, and I feel like if anyone can sort of rewrite the DLC rulebook, it could be them. We don't get a lot of DLC anymore, do we? It used to be the thing all the time. Everything used to have DLC. Yeah, I just remember going back to when I was doing the games magazines, in the kind of, I don't know, around sort of 2010s, early 2010s. It just felt inevitable. Like, here's your game, and here's your little kind of cruddy extra level that they cut during development, kind of being added on. But
typically now it's just it's your classic microtransactions and your skins and your etc.
seasons,
battle passes. Yeah,
but in terms of like single player story DLC, I actually where once I rolled my eyes at it, now I'm actually well up for it. See, with the other one, completely unrelated to this, I'm actually really up for the Assassin's Creed Valhalla. DLC.
Druids of the Glen or some stuff.
Yeah.
That's out soon, isn't it? I think it's out relatively soon. I quite enjoy single player DLC. So I would enjoy if we went back to those days and got more, because as you say, you're very rarely going to get anything groundbreaking, but sometimes you get I don't know, something that fleshes out the already established story, like what the Christ was it called? Not Beyond the Sea. No, it was Beyond the Sea, was it? Was that the BioShock Infinite? I think that was Beyond.
Not Under the not Death Under the Sea, Under the Sea. The sort of film noir one.
The 2-part one. Yeah. Yeah, no, that was good.
Oh, what was that called?
I thought it was Beyond the Sea.
Anyway, I don't think it's Under the Sea. It's got too many little Little Mermaid vibes.
But something that isn't called Beyond the Sea or Under the Sea. In fact, it is called Halo Infinite.
Great, what a segue.
That's a video game that's coming out in 2021. So they say.
That is not a 9 a.m. segue. That is a 10:30 segue if ever I heard one.
So yes, this is coming to PC as well as Xbox Series X, which is something we've known, of course. But Matt Booty, who is the head of Xbox Game Studios, posted a blog on the Xbox Wire last week about Microsoft and PC gaming as a whole. But he did bring up Halo Infinite, and he said that the next game in Master Chief's little adventure will support cross-play multiplayer and cross-progression. So in Booty's own words, quote, that means if you're playing on PC, you can play with your friends on Xbox One and Xbox Series X/S. It also means that your multiplayer customization and progress will follow you across all platforms. He went on to say, we have been working closely with the PC community, which is an interesting one, but I'll get onto that in a second.
I consider myself part of the PC community.
Yeah, I didn't get
closely with me.
I didn't get an email about this, Matt. But yeah, we've been working closely with the PC community to ensure that Halo Infinite offers a premier PC experience, including highly desired features such as support for ultra-wide and super ultra-wide screens, triple keybinds, a wide variety of advanced graphics options, and more. We want to make sure that Halo is serving the PC community. We'll talk about the other stuff in a minute, but this is good. This is maybe a sign of intent from Microsoft when it comes to their first party stuff with your crossplay, your cross progression. We have it in some games, but not everything. Like, for example, I know one of your favorites, Gears Tactics. I'm pretty sure that doesn't have cross progression.
That came out on PC before it came out on console, which may explain it.
That is true, I suppose. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. But yeah, Matthew, this can only be described as good.
Yes, that is good. Sorry, I was just thinking of. I was just quickly trying to do a sneaky internet search to find out which one it was.
Don't worry, I heard.
When you said ultra wide, it made me think of in one of the Mission Impossible films. There's a scene where they come and get like Simon Pegg from like Mission Impossible HQ, and he's playing like
Halo
I think
Infinite.
it's Halo 5 on PC, which obviously isn't a thing, was never a thing, but he's playing it across 3 monitors. In a sort of ultra wide sort of type style setup. I think that happened. I didn't imagine that. That's too specific for me to have imagined. It's one of those really weird, like, it's not a product placement. It's product placement for a product that doesn't exist, which I always thought, that's odd.
Oh, yeah. That is
but anyway,
odd.
yes. The other thing with this, it really makes me laugh that they keep talking about, they're talking quite a good game with Halo Infinite, with all these blogs. They do these very lengthy posts where they get people out and talk in great detail about how beautiful it's going to be and how, how sort of PC friendly it's going to be. And that's all great. But at the same time, when people online or on shows like this then talk about it, they're forced to use that footage from launch, which is the footage that everyone disliked so much. They delayed the game and decided to like completely overhaul parts of it.
Like genuinely, it wasn't lost on me this morning when I was setting up the videos for the video version of the Weekspot, where I was like, that exact thought came into my head. Like, the only thing they have to show of Halo is the thing that people said is shit.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone over this so many times. Like, I don't think it's totally shit. But it's that they've already put this in front of an audience. The audience has said no. Put out some new footage. Put out something new,
anything
like that we can talk about over. Because otherwise, it's one thing to be going like, oh yeah, they've tapped into like this real like hidden beauty of this world, and it cuts back to sort of the sort of that original reveal. Yeah, they need to get on top of that. And kind of until they do show the game, it's kind of hard to see all of this as anything more than talk. Like they are talking a good game, but it's kind of easy to say that on a blog. In words, it's quite another thing to actually sort of deliver that. And I still think, I don't know, the whole Halo Infinite sort of development saga has left quite a sort of sour taste because, this was a game that was meant to be out alongside the launch of the console.
Yeah.
And yet they've basically, they're trying to gloss over the fact that, it feels like they didn't want to do this. This wasn't their aim in the first place. And now they're trying to sort of sell it as this is the natural way of things. This was always the plan. When they're like, oh man, this thing that, the extra, what you're getting from this extra year is this, that, we're putting all this love into PC, or we've improved these visuals, got these new ideas that are really coming to fruition. It's like, does that mean that like you were originally happy to release this like quite inferior thing last year? Like your original plan was like, oh, that'll do. You've been shamed into doing something. And the more they talk up how good the new version is, the more that original version seems like they were just trying to fob us off with something.
Well, I suppose it's a little like when there's a new FIFA or Madden or whatever, and developers are saying this year's version has X, Y, Z. Last year's version, bucket of shit. But like in that point in time, they're building it up, which I suppose is what they were doing with Halo Infinite, and now they can, because they've had the extra however many months. Like they'll...
and that's just the nature of these things. I understand, but there's I don't know. There's something particularly kind of galling about this one because I don't know. It feels like they didn't make that decision themselves, or maybe they did. Like maybe this was always the plan. Maybe they always planned to add this extra year, and they weren't just reacting to the reaction. But I don't know what. It just a very like messy time all round for what should be like their absolute most like premium thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Halo Infinite should be out 6 months. Is it? Would that be about right? Give or take. Like it's wild, and they still haven't dated it. Like it's 2021. Could get delayed. Could get delayed again. Who knows? But in other sort of Microsoft flavored PC news, Mr. Booty did also mention xCloud and how that they're in the process of making it so the PC players can play console games. But the main point that people kind of picked up on was that he mentioned that Microsoft is lowering their take on games sold via the Microsoft Store. So basically, any developers or publishers who put their games for sale on the Microsoft Store, they will now get 88% of revenue rather than 70%. What that does is bring Microsoft in line with the Epic Game Store, which has an 88-11 split, but not Valve. Valve are still sort of on an island because Valve does a 70-30 split. So Valve take 30, the developer takes 70. And then, because like, do you remember the hubbub surrounding Valve? I think it was even, was that when Epic lowered their, or at least made public what their take was? But there was a lot of, there's a lot of disgruntled people around that. But Valve will lower their take where the more a game sells. So if a game reaches 10 million in sales, Valve take 25%. If a game reaches 50 million in sales, Valve take 20%. But still not still more than the other two, I suppose.
Which is odd because you'd think that if anyone, I mean, maybe this is like howlingly stupid, but you sort of think it would be the other way around. If you're trying to kind of encourage smaller developers, that you give them a helping hand, and the more monstrous your thing becomes, the bigger a slice of the pie Valve take. Unless that sends the wrong message. I don't know what sends the wrong message. one sends the wrong message to small developers who are definitely, are going to be lucky to make like 10 grand. The other applies to the kind of the beasts who are going to make, basically your rock stars and whatnot. I guess it's like, who do you want to be in the corner of?
Yeah, of course, like it benefits your bigger. It basically benefits your like your 2Ks and your whatever else, your big publishers. Like small, as you say, small developers aren't going to be reaching fucking 10 million in sales unless it's a massive breakout hit. But PC Gamer did contact Microsoft about their 88-11 split, and they were, because there is the small issue of Xbox Play Anywhere games, which is, you can kind of like what we were talking about, the cross progression. Very, very, yeah. There aren't many of them. But Microsoft told them that the 88-11 split doesn't apply to games that are bought on consoles. So if you were to buy, what's an Xbox? What's one of them? I think Yakuza, like a dragon is. So like if you bought that on your Xbox One, then Microsoft is taking 30%. But if you buy that on the Windows Store on PC, Microsoft is taking 11%, which is, whilst a small issue, one that is, I don't know, a little, an issue that they need to resolve. But the Valve stuff, the Steam stuff, I suppose, yes, Steam is a better storefront and a more user-friendly and all that. And it gives developers more options, I suppose. But like, I don't know, Matthew Castle Games is releasing their debut game tomorrow. Are they releasing on Steam? Because like, their take is going to be much lower than if they just say release it on Epic and the Microsoft Store.
Yeah, I probably am. Just because it's massive.
That's kind of it, isn't it? Yeah.
A, because it's massive, and also I just can't bear to listen to all of the fucking Steam heads whining away. That's the other thing. I know they don't. I know it's just a vocal minority, but you just don't want that hassle, do you? You don't want all the nasty boys of Steam coming after you. Because I'll tell you what.
Do they have I feel like the nasty boys of Steam.
I think probably have a skewed view of this just from doing the when we're researching mystery Steam reviews. If you ever come across any game that wasn't originally on Steam, there's all these reviews that are like, this is one of my favourite games, but fuck this game. I do not recommend it because it was on Epic first. And you're like, oh my God, really the scum of the universe type living in those comments. I mean, like, big fucking babies. Grow up. It's absolutely tiresome. It makes mystery Steam reviews just like a real swamp.
No, big time.
Like, I'm giving you a down thumb out of principle, and it's like, wow, amazing. Imagine if you gave a fuck about something that actually mattered. Unbelievable.
I mean, you could apply that to many people who enjoy video games, sadly. But one thing we should give a fuck about, apparently, I don't know, Matthew. Oh, what's that coming over the hill? I used that last week. I'm going to have to come up with a new one. It is Tech Corner, because Matthew, Sega are getting in on that sweet NFT dollar. So
the worst thing Sega have done since Big the Cat.
Matthew, why non-fungible tokens?
I imagine there's some idiot who thinks, let's get in on the conversation. This scene, everyone's talking about it without actually looking into it and realizing that it's contributing to our catastrophic destruction of our home planet. So nice one, Sega.
Sega.
You now suck as game makers and as just ethical beings.
Oh, come on, Yakuza.
Oh yeah, that's all right.
Technically, the Persona series as well.
I tell you what, if Kiryu came across anyone like hawking NFTs,
he'd be so cross.
He'd kick the shit out of them. That would be a brilliant side mission.
He would be so cross.
Someone's offering him to buy a non-fungible token. He's like, and then 10 seconds later, he's hitting them with a very non-fungible traffic cone.
Very good. So those...
Or a fungible traffic cone. Is that a fungible? I don't really understand.
I don't think anyone does, even the people who came up with the concept. But yeah, those are your headlines and hot takes for this week. So now it's time to tell you about the games that we've been playing in Show and Tell.
Show and tell, show and tell. We can't afford a proper jingle. It's meant to be jingle.
Yes! Show and Tell is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where we tell you about the games we've been playing over the past couple of days. And Matthew, I know you are quite the fan of Death Stranding, so I am excited to hear what you thought of Insurmountable. What's this? This looks interesting.
Yeah, this is very different to Death Stranding. So when I saw this game was coming out and it involved mountain climbing, I thought, we can talk about it in the context of Death Stranding, because that also has a lot of like climbing up mountains with ladders and ropes. This is very different.
Okay.
I'd probably describe this as a sort of like semi-roguelike in its structure, though it's obviously quite abstract and not combat based, but you are a mountain climber. The mountain is sort of represented as a series of tiles, different tiles with different terrain types. They behave differently. So there's this sense of kind of like just the act of like moving between tiles is kind of sapping away at various bars you have along the bottom. So there's like a survival element to it as well. I say it's sort of roguelike in that it kind of feels like taking a run at something like you would in a roguelike. You know, the mountain, you have a shot at the mountain. And, if it goes horribly wrong, you start at the bottom. And, as you're climbing the mountain, you're, picking your path through the rocks. You're looking at the different terrain types, trying to work out, what am I equipped for? What can my person sort of handle? The mountain itself is covered with, like event tiles, which can be like, the picture of two heads that you see here. If you go there, that'll be like an encounter with someone. There might be a treasure tile where you can get an item, a cave tile where there's a cave that you can either explore or you can just camp in, because where to sleep is a very key element of this game. So like the big initial drain on you in terms of survival is your stamina, because everything you're doing is eating into your stamina. If you're climbing up kind of massive tall rocks, that's going to drain your stamina faster. If you're walking on unsteady surfaces, that might drain your stamina faster. The only way to get it back, apart from a few kind of the event tiles that give you like mystical stamina boosts, is to sleep. But like if you sleep out in the cold, you'll get cold. Your body temperature will drop because it gets cold at night. So are you just trying to kind of push on to the next cave? Are you trying to go to the treasure tiles to find a tent to stay in so that you can kind of like sleep at night? It's got this day-night cycle. Obviously, at night things get darker. You can't see as far, which makes the whole game a lot more challenging. It's kind of harder to sort of plan ahead. Also, it gets colder, so just that everything drains you a lot faster. But what I really like about this is it does feel like a weirdly perfect match of like genre and activity.
Because survival and mountain climbing.
Yeah, I think so, and that roguelike thing, because listen, I'm not going to pretend I'm any kind of mountain climbing expert at all. Like most of what I know about mountain climbing comes from I once had a company I used to work at. We had like a big kind of they had this like big company conference day every year where they got everyone together and get like inspirational speakers in, and they had someone who'd climbed Everest to come in and sort of tell us some, you can do it, you can make it to the top.
You can climb
actually,
Everest.
All his stories were like mega bleak, because climbing Everest is so hard and it goes horribly wrong. And do you know about all the corpses on Everest?
I don't know. Maybe I don't. Go on.
you basically, when you get up so high, and there's the lack of oxygen, and just the dangers kind of like are sort of tenfold, and it's it gets to the point where people just die quite regularly up there at the top of mountains, and it's too difficult or too risky to just get their body, so they're just left there. So literally, it's strewn with bodies. There's a place called referred to as is it? It's Rainbow Valley or Rainbow Canyon, Rainbow Valley, which is so named after all the brightly coloured clothes of the corpses and sleeping bags. Like,
that is grim.
Right, yeah, right. It's like mega bad. Climbing a mountain is it's really rotten, and it gets to a point where and this is what this climber was telling us, is when you get really to the top, it's kind of literally like you either make it or like you succumb and basically die.
Right.
Which sounds horrible, but like that is, and it gets to the point where they're like, we have to leave this person behind. Like, if we stop and try and help our person, we all die. Yeah. So it's like one person or no one. And
who liked Brian anyway? Really, come on,
So it's pretty frightening stuff. And actually, like the sense, in a roguelike, the kind of the idea that like this run is it, like it's all or nothing every single time. You go from start to finish every single time. It's a perfect sort of match for the act of mountain climbing. And the idea of like mistakes made along the way will accumulate and make it extra hard, and you have to kind of carry all the baggage of any one given run with you. It's actually, that's very neat, it seems to me. And the higher you get, you're tempted off like the optimal route by these kind of event tiles. Do you want to go and try and take shelter somewhere? Might you, is that treasure tile going to have, like an oxygen tank or like a warmer coat, something which could make a huge difference? Because the other interesting thing that, I'm sure there's a roguelike which has this sort of this structural element to it. But there comes a point when you're climbing where you hit the death zone, which is where the oxygen really, really thins out. And it's only at that point does the oxygen kind of come into play for a character. So one of your bars is oxygen, and up until then you haven't had to worry about it. But now, like, there's this extra pressure. Like, everything you do above this height is going to be draining oxygen too. Oh. So like the urgency of the whole game just suddenly ramps up a notch. Which mechanically I love. I think it's really great because you think it doesn't matter, like, you've got the kind of run of the place, or you feel like you've got a really good grasp of like what's going on, how it's meant to work. And then suddenly the kind of rules say, well, now there's this horrible ticking clock over you, and, you can get out of it by climbing back down, of course, but really you're just kind of pushing on. And it does a really good job of getting you into that mindset. Like, there does come a point where you look at it and you think, you can see the top within reach, and you think, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get up there. This, what you're looking at now is actually the very peak of the first mountain. Structurally the game, so this only came out yesterday. So I've only been able to play like quite a limited amount, I'll say. So, I haven't been able to delve too deep into the kind of the wider structure of the game. But the campaign seems built around like 3 successive peaks. So you kind of climb to the top of the first one, and then you kind of head down to sort of like a lower base camp, which actually took me by surprise because I thought I just had to get to the top. And then I'd really pushed myself. I had like no oxygen, very little stamina at this point. And then I had to climb down, and just the act of climbing down was an absolute nightmare. So that was fun. You could see it like on the interface. Like, you can make more dangerous moves, so you can either like go around and try and use the rocks as like stepping stones, or you can climb up like a very steep piece of rock, but the line will be red saying this is a risky move. Like, you're going to run out of stamina midway, and once any of your bars have run out, they start triggering kind of like emergency events. So, I was out of oxygen. I was out of oxygen, and it kept triggering like, you're puking up blood, or there's bloody froths coming out of your mouth, and do you want to push on, or do you want to try and rest? And you're trying to make these decisions. But yeah, now having done peak 1, now I push on to peak 2.
So when you actually run out of oxygen or whatever, the game, like, it doesn't just end. It sort of gives you a second chance.
No, it doesn't just end, because basically when any of the bars run out, you start getting these emergency events, which they start eating into your health bar. It's the health that once the health's out, that's when you're done for.
Okay.
So it's not like you're immediately over. I mean, this is like the easiest peak on like the easiest mode. I mean, so running out of oxygen, it was bad, and it kind of like chewed into my health when I was climbing down, but it wasn't like it wasn't game over. But I imagine on harder difficulties, which I will be trying, that it'll be tougher. But yeah,
these
other thing
events. Sorry, I was just going to say these events where you've come across a cave and like it's sort of text adventure-y.
Yeah,
is there any actual, I suppose, like story reason for what, like, doing this, or is it just you've come across a cave, you get sleep, you are now more re-energized?
No, you climb as you pick a kind of character class to climb as, and they've got different stats and buffs. So one of them is just like an adventurer who's just doing it for the thrill of the climb. Another one is the one I was doing as is a journalist who's trying to like research like the myth of the mountain or something.
Right.
And the idea is that gives them like their overarching motivation to climb the mountain. And then, like I say, they got different stats and things. So like the journalist isn't as susceptible to like sanity drops because they're very rational, for example. That I may have worded that one slightly wrong, but the adventurous climber, his stamina drops slower rate on like rougher terrain because he's used to it, and that kind of stuff. So which character you take into it will sort of change your approach a bit. On each mountain, you get the choice of like 3 routes, and it sort of tells you the kind of rough character of that route, which I think changes like how many types of certain tiles will appear. So you can kind of try and match the character you've got to the kind of approach. So, if you've made it through Mountain 1 and you've accrued certain items, they might make more sense going up like the snowier route, for example.
Okay.
Or, this route is longer, but your stamina drops slower because it's like it isn't as steep or something. The downside to have only played a few hours of this when it came out yesterday is that I don't really have a read on how much variety there is. I don't really know how the mountain generation works. Like, I'm assuming it is,
procedural,
randomly generated every time. I sort of need to dig into it, but the idea of it, I think, is absolutely fantastic. I think the execution's quite nice. Like, it's this weird combination of like mega stress in terms of what's going on, but also very chilled because, you can take your time, you kind of plot your route tile by tile, you can zoom it out. There's not really, there's a lot of like natural sounds. Like, just the sight of him climbing up the mountain is quite nice. I mean, it's not like, like mega, like realistic in terms of like when the looks of it, it's quite an abstracted world, but it's really nicely done. It's a really clever way of tackling it. I love it when someone says like, I want to make a game about X, and they actually like really drill to the heart of
what
makes, a bit, I know it's obviously very different, but a bit like, Papers, Please. You think like, how can you make a game about like being a border guard? But they really made it work, and they found the kind of game in that world. And here it would have been very easy just to go, simulation. Simulation is what's interesting. More the Death Stranding route. It's about the actual act of climbing. It's about ropes. It's about managing your items. It's about like route finding. Where here, I think it taps more into the kind of the undertaking of the hobby and the sort of scale of the task and the idea of, that you have to kind of commit to this thing or it will kind of conquer you. It's really, really, really well done. I don't think it's massively expensive either. So I would recommend checking this out.
That's good. That surprised me. I didn't expect you to. I don't know why, but I wasn't expecting you to be as hot on that as you were. So that's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's like 15 quid. Feels pretty decent to me. I'm definitely going to be playing more of it. So, Insurmountable. Check it out.
Very good. A video game that I've been playing over the last few days. I suppose it revolves around an activity where you can be hurt as well, and pain is a regularity. And that activity is skateboarding, because I've been playing a game called Skate City.
Right.
So this is a side-scrolling skateboarding game that launched on Apple Arcade about 2 years ago, give or take. And it's coming to PC on the 6th. So this week. It retains a lot of the phoniness, as in phone, handheld, not phony fakeness, that doesn't really play well on PC. But look, I'll get onto that in a second. I'll explain how this works, because if you're watching this and looking at it, you'd think like, oh, it controls like Tony Hawk. No. It is similar, but not totally like OlliOlli. So it is an endless runner, or skater, I suppose. And you get your skater to perform tricks using the analog sticks and the bumpers and triggers. I didn't play it with mouse and keyboard because, I'm not a lunatic. So a flick of the analog stick will be a flip trick, and the bumpers and triggers sort of allow you to manipulate the skater's body. So I think it's the bumpers will allow you to do spins, and the triggers do they allow you to do manuals and different types of grinds. Now, I'm not a super mega OlliOlli fan or anything like that, but I liked it. But what I really appreciated about that game was that it put an emphasis on the actual completion of tricks, right? Because like Tony Hawk, and listen, I love Tony Hawk, but Tony Hawk is all about like being in that moment, doing the flashy twirls, the grabs, the whatnot. It's like big tricks. Whereas OlliOlli is about what happens afterwards. It's about landing the thing, and there's so much weight in OlliOlli given to just how you actually land the board after doing whatever it is you've done. This game doesn't really do either, because it's sort of a bit more sedate, like OlliOlli, in that it's side-scrolling and you're not going to be doing any sort of like big, massive 900s or anything like that. But you also magnet to surfaces and rails. So, like, the game does a lot of the hard work for you. And that becomes quite tired quite quickly.
Right.
Which is a shame. But it is it's not all disappointing, I suppose. Like although, do you know what, before I get onto that, I will explain. I said it retains a lot of the kind of phoniness of what I imagine it would have been like on Apple Arcade. So there are there are 3 different cities to choose from: Barcelona, Oslo, and LA. I think it's LA. And in these cities, you have 2 options. So you can either just go on an endless skate, which is you just go left to right until the end of time, and you perform tricks, but these tricks aren't... it's like a free skate in Tony Hawk. It's like these tricks aren't going on any scoreboard or anything like that. But the challenges, which I suppose is the meat of the game, there are about 15 or 20 challenges in each level, and the challenges come in different forms. But there aren't nearly enough to keep your attention, I think, for more than a few minutes. Again, it's there's a lot of phoniness about this. You would just I don't know, you're commuting. Well, I suppose you're not commuting these days, but whatever. Do you know, you're taking out your phone for a minute. You're going to play one or two challenges of Skate City, then you lock your phone and you move on. And yeah, that's kind of a lot of feeling of this game. But the challenges themselves, there are races against other skaters. There are races against cops as well, which are sort of the same thing.
I like it when you got to the finish flag for the cop, and the cop's just like, "Oh, there's a finish flag. I better stop chasing him." I chased him all the way to the flag. I've done my bit. No one can judge me.
Yeah, I have a bit left in the tank, but you know, who am I to defy these rules? But yeah, you've score attack challenges as well, or you have other challenges that require you to perform specific tricks at specific points, and they'll show you know, press the left trigger and then flick the right analog stick in this direction. And then afterwards you're judging on sort of your classic 3-star phone system, where 1 means you've passed but you've done the bare minimum, and 3 is the best you could do. And
I can't get my head around the perspective of this game. When you had that kind of over the camera shot, like,
that's
is it still stuck to a plane?
So that's what I was gonna mention. This is one thing I quite like. In the normal challenges and the normal game, it's side scrolling. That's But in endless mode, which is the one where you just perform tricks until the end of time, that is where you can manipulate the camera. And listen, I'm not immersed in the skate scene or anything like that, but it does one thing that, you know, if you know anything about skateboarding or in the 90s and all that, you know, making videos, historically a thing in skating, and this endless mode allows you to do that, and allows you to manipulate the camera, not loads of ways, but it allows you to put the camera in front of the skater. It allows you to put the camera behind the skater. It allows you to go into slow motion, and you can record this and, I don't know, put it up on Twitter or wherever you want. And it's not incredibly fleshed out or anything, but I like it as a feature, and I like it as it plays into the theme as well.
Is the skater still stuck to like one plane of movement in that mode?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I couldn't get. It looked like you were controlling like where he was going in the world, which didn't make any sense to me.
No, you are still. It is still totally 2D, but what you can.
Oh, okay, but just from a different. Okay, it looked like you were moving towards some things to grind them. But
well, that's what I kind of mean when you just like magnet to, like, you just totally.
Oh, I see. Okay, right. That
stick to rails and stick to surfaces and all that. It is a. So yeah, I think it gets the atmosphere of skating, and like there's a kind of a nice little kind of pastel color. It's very, again, it's not flashy like Tony Hawk. It's a little bit sort of more chilled out. It's very, again, I suppose depending on how you want to play it, like that phone star system, where like, do, you know, 1 star is your bare minimum type of thing. Like, you can just flick the sticks however, press the bumpers and triggers a few times, you'll be fine. You'll likely pass. But I suppose if you want to delve in a little bit deeper, you can, and actually learn the tricks. But yeah, it's a nice game. See, it's all right, but I don't know truly how much you would get out of it. Because I think I haven't played the phone version, but I think it is very much and I don't mean this like, because a lot of people will just go a blanket statement, all phone games are shite, or, you know, it's a phone game. I don't think that there are some good phone games out there, but this is one that you play in bite-sized chunks, and I think that lends itself to a device in your pocket that you carry around with you at all times, and when you're waiting in the queue at Sainsbury's, you're like, oh, I'm bored, I'll pull out my phone and I'll skate from left to right for 90 seconds. So yeah, Skate City, it's okay. It's okay. Matthew, you have played another video game, and this one I know nothing about.
Yeah, this again, I've only been able to play a little bit of this because there was quite a limited time between our last 2 weeks spot recording. This is called Silicon Dreams. I was actually put onto it by IPS founder John Walker, who reviewed it on his site Buried Treasures, which sort of looks at like indie games. He was saying like people should look at this. It's cool. It's a sort of Android interrogation game. Like you're working for this sort of Android manufacturing company, and you are. Sorry, I said like Android interrogation game is a genre. Like, oh, it's one of those Android interrogation games, which is daft. It's a game about interrogating androids. You work for this Android company, and you are interviewing models which have gone wrong in some way, or their owners or users have basically sent them back to the company because they're worried they're broken in some way, or that they've done something, and but each case is different. And the thrust of the game is that you are you're trying to kind of work out the answers to some questions that the company sets you about each android. So they're almost looking for, it's kind of like I think the best way of describing it is almost a bit like the kind of like tests that like a plumber might do when he's checking your boiler. Like there's certain things they're checking for just to make sure it's in working order. So it's kind of like, does this android show like any signs of like, deviancy, or is it capable of like X emotion? Because this model shouldn't be able to. And so you're trying to kind of test it by kind of interviewing it to kind of get the answers to these questions. The way it kind of works in the interviews is that you have big sheets of questions, and as you ask them, you've got this sort of emotional chart that you can sort of see in the middle with 6 different emotions on it. And like if there are certain questions may cause them to react very aggressively in one. Sometimes the reaction and what they say doesn't gel. So they might be like, yes, I love my owner, but then it's like showing like mega high disgust ratings. And you're trying to kind of interpret this information to answer these questions. You can also ask it like specific questions to sort of like evoke certain emotions to kind of like push the conversation forward. It's a little hard to describe this one because when you're doing it, you get a feel for what it's trying to do in terms of like reading these emotions and manipulating the emotions, because there are like certain questions where the kind of android will sort of shut down a bit, or it doesn't talk to you because it doesn't like feel comfortable, and it will sort of say like, I don't trust you enough, or like I'm too scared to talk about that. And then you have to use other questions or the kind of questions that like evoke certain emotions to kind of try and change its like current mental state so that you can ask those questions. So if it's scared, you try and cheer it up basically with other things you ask, so that you're like, oh great, it's in a good mood, now's the time to ask that one question.
That is interesting. Like, I mean, there are very few games that do interrogation properly well. Because a lot of them are very A-B, L.A. Noire, I suppose, being a famous example, like where there is no middle ground. Like, whereas this sounds
it's
okay.
almost like that thing in L.A. Noire where you looked at the faces and you saw the little like micro expressions to kind of like get a read if they were like guilty or doubtful or whatever. Except here you've got this sort of chart which is showing their like emotional makeup, and you're trying to use that to kind of gauge where they're at and where to push. I mean, it's but at the same time, like you're having conversations with them, and like topics are coming up which feel like they're sort of shaping you as a character, or they're shaping your path through the game. So there's a element of role playing, like you can be like a very strict like company man and by the books, and anything they say where they're like, oh, I did this and they shouldn't have done, you can really like sort of throw the book at them, or you can be a bit more kind of sort of empathetic and open to them. And I haven't played this all the way through. Like I said, I've only had limited time with it, but from what other people have said, I get the impression that like the ending you get, or where the story can go, can change quite dramatically based on like how you present yourself. Because, you're not only kind of it almost suggests that you're not only answering these questions, but you're deciding that if you do work out the answer, like whether to share that information with the big evil company.
Ooh.
So like you can almost frame it like, you know, if you feel like the android actually hasn't done anything wrong, you can basically put in like wrong answers. And then at the end of the report, you can decide whether that robot's going to be like memory wiped, destroyed, or just released as it is. And, you know, which decisions you make there compared with your answers feels like that'll take, you know, that can be more or less pleasing to your corporate overlords because they feel like you got it right or wrong. I mean, it doesn't explicitly, after when you submit your report, you get this sort of feedback where the company rewards you or kind of gets cross about certain answers.
Oh.
And you don't know if like, the one thing I would say isn't entirely clear is like, are you getting it wrong or have you angered them? You know, is it just not what they want to hear? So there's a bit of a sort of interpretation there. You know, it's I don't know if there is a 100% right or wrong answer for each kind of case, or if it's a case of like getting all the information and interpreting it and then sort of sticking with that choice and seeing where it takes you in the game. I'd need to play more of that. But I like the framing of this. I like the whole kind of emotional thing. What you're looking at here is you can basically go through every statement they've said and it records like all their emotional reactions. So, because some of the criteria that you get judged by, it's like, can the robot feel joy and sorrow at the same time? So you can basically scroll through that and see if there was any moment when they did or whatever. You also have, you get these sort of extra abilities down the side where you can do things like unshackle them in the interview to kind of give them like a surge of relief and trust.
Oh, okay.
Or you can shackle them back up again to put the scarers on them. And you can also like change the sort of vibe of the room. You can kind of like pump in like music that you know, to emotionally manipulate them. So like if you're trying to,
this sounds relatively deep and like,
yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, it definitely feels that way. I mean, like I say, without I think like really sitting down and picking over it for hours and hours and hours, it's kind of hard to work out like how the consequences of it were. But you know, I think it really taps into that like fantasy of the is it the Voight camp from Blade Runner, where they test them to see if they're replicants. Right. It's kind of going for that sort of vibe, like this idea that you're trying to like sort of shake someone up and shake them out of their kind of robotic processes to kind of get to the heart of their character. But you know, some of them will be, you know, some of them might be wrong and some of them might be kinder. There's a little papers, please element to it in that based on your performance, like your company ranking goes up and down. Right. And it's implied that like if you keep messing up or if you're too sympathetic or you let a bad robot go or whatever, your ranking will go down and you can like fail the game because of that. Where like if you please the company, your ranking goes up and like the room you're in, like the room you live in gets nicer and nicer, like the more the kind of company approves, which is like a fun little touch. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. It seems super interesting. Like it's very kind of text adventure in terms of like you're just reading through lots of text. You know, it's visually, you know, there's not like a lot going on, but the writing's good. The conversations between you and the androids are well done. I think this is cool.
Steam? Or?
Yes. Yeah, Steam, Silicon Dreams. It's actually been out for like a week and a bit, I think. But like I said, John pointed it out, and yeah, it's a good shout. An interesting game. Probably deserves to do a lot better than the 30 Steam reviews it currently has. So support interesting indie games.
That does indeed seem interesting. So those are the games that we've been playing over the last couple of days. So now it's time to test the knowledge of one another in another type of game we like to call Mystery Steam Reviews. Mystery Steam Reviews is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where I, Colm Ahern, and he, Matthew Castle, test the knowledge of one another via Steam reviews that are a mystery. And the rules are as follows. Both I and Matthew bring 3 Steam reviews to the MSR Arena, but we omit the name of the game associated with each review. Our opponent must correctly guess the game attached to each review. 1 correct answer equals 1 point. While both of us have 90 seconds on each MSR, we both also have help in the form of 3 lifelines. These lifelines can be used at any stage during battle and also pause the 90-second timer. Each lifeline can only be used once, and they are as follows. Question, where the hot seat haver gets to ask a yes or no question. Second opinion, where a second review is given to the warm chair sitter. And genre, where the genre of the game is revealed to the one with the warm arse. It's as simple as that. So this week, Matthew, the people have spoken. And they have picked... Listen, I gave them the option. I didn't expect them to pick it, but they did. They have picked the option that is... It was the most wishy-washy on there, and that is spiritual successors. So, in other words, a video game that... I don't know, feels like a sequel.
And that's the problem with this. Is it's not an outright sequel. It doesn't even have to be made by the same people.
Yeah.
It's what constitutes a spiritual successor is entirely down to the person playing the game, because it's spiritual. It's a sense of a successor.
I mean, we put a lot of weight on Wikipedia, so this is according to Wikipedia. A spiritual successor, sometimes called a spiritual sequel, is a product or fictional work which is similar to or directly inspired by another previous work, but, unlike a traditional prequel or sequel, does not explicitly continue the product line or media franchise of its predecessor, and thus only a successor in spirit.
All I'm saying is, like, I think what I've picked are 3 spiritual successors, but someone else may disagree. But if you do disagree, then pick a more concrete category next time, I'd say.
So, Matthew, let's kick off with your first Mystery Steam review. It's fun to pretend that I like to help people. And that's from Half Beard. It's recommended 45 hours on record, 13 hours at review time. Matthew, your time starts now.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Talk about starting with a hard one. It's fun to pretend that I like to help people. You help people in all games, unless you're an active villain. Pretend to help. Listen, give me the genre on this.
Oh, okay, we're going to pause the timer at 1:14. What?
Yeah, genre. Give me the genre.
Okay. And the genre of this video game is a business simulation game.
Interesting.
A business simulation game.
Okay.
Restarting the timer now.
So a business simulation game where you help people. That is a spiritual successor, or in your head is a spiritual successor to something.
This is bang on a spiritual successor.
Okay, this is a bang-on spiritual successor. Okay, that feels like a clue. Helping people. Business games, I mean, like, building, like, city skylines is a sort of spiritual successor to SimCity. But that doesn't feel like you're helping people. Like, there's a lot of modern, the Evil Genius, no, not Evil Genius, that's a direct sequel, and you're not helping people. A building game where you help people. It's not. Oh, I know what this is. Hospital. This is the theme hospital one. Oh, piss. What's it called? It's like the two. It's 2 Point Hospital.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah. It's 2 Point Hospital? It's not 2 Peaks Hospital. I've got a picture of 2 mountain peaks. I think it's 2 Point.
So, you were a little bit stumped there at the start when it came to the actual review, but it's fun to pretend to help people. But the genre lifeline shed some light on it. It got you thinking about city skylines and other tycoon games, and you've ended up on 2 Point Hospital, and I can tell you, Matthew, that the correct answer is 2 Point Hospital.
Yes.
Congratulations. Yeah, I think that is. Can we agree?
Yeah,
spiritual.
Now you say it, I'm like spiritual successor through and through.
Good. So, let's say you say that yours are spiritual successors.
Yeah, I don't know if any of them are as good as that, but yeah.
All right. Matthew,
That's a good one.
could I have my first Mystery Steam review, please?
The first-person experience is always a stressfully joyous occasion filled with stealth, explosions, and burning mutants. A thrilling pastime. Play it with low gamma. Yeah, says Heroic Defect. Recommends it with 13.7 hours on record.
Okay, time starts now. Right, the burning mutants feels like I feel like I should drill down on that. Play it with low gamma. Right. Do you know what? I'm not gonna. Oh, do I? Yeah, I'm gonna pause the timer. Can I pause the timer? Yeah, 105. Matthew, could I have my second opinion, please?
Okay.
Let's go all in.
The second opinion for this is quite simply Russian Life Simulator.
Oh no, I should have used my second opinion. Restarting the timer now. Russian Life Simulator. So hang on, let me think. Spiritual successors. Russian Life Simulator. What did it say? First person. Killing mutants. Russian Life Simulator. Is Russian Life Simulator? Would you say that is a distasteful? Like in your own personal opinion?
I'd say it's quite a literal review.
Okay, right, okay. Oh, Jesus!
I mean, it's like just say it's a joke. It's a jokey, but it's also there's a very important fact in it.
Is it about the lads poisoning? Oh, mutants.
There's a skip roll poisoning.
Mutants and Doom.
Oh, he doomed it. When in doubt, just shout Doom. Oh man, I like that your logic was like, was it about the Salisbury poisonings? Ah yes, that famous video game about the Salisbury poisonings. Doom, right. Is that your final answer?
Yes, of course, Chris, yes.
So, this game, it's a first-person experience. It's got stealth, explosions, mutants. Play it with low gamma. Now, it could mean a couple of things. It could mean play in the dark, change the brightness settings of the game. Could also, they laugh after the word gamma, which suggests gamma is a play on words. Radiation.
It's
I'm
Metro.
thinking radiation. I'm thinking Russian Life Simulator. The correct answer is Metro 2033.
Stalker.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Seen as a spiritual successor to Stalker.
Mother flipper.
I'm sorry.
That's
I like that you went. I like you were like Russian Life Simulator. Was it those lads who did the poisoning?
Matthew, would you like your second Mystery Steam review?
Yes, please.
Played through the beta, backed the project on Kickstarter. This is not what we were promised. Just go get Shovel Knight. You'll be less sad that way. And that's from Mr. Blunder. It is not recommended. 5.3 hours on record. Your time starts now.
Interested. So Kickstarter, that feels generous. That's zoomed in. A spiritual successor that was kickstarted but people didn't like. I mean, the thing that pops into my head is Mighty Number 9, which is considered a spiritual successor to Mega Man. The fact that they said Shovel Knight makes me think of other two, because Shovel Knight is sort of a spiritual successor to an era of NES platformers like DuckTales and things. You know what? I think this is Mighty Number 9.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
So it didn't take you long to come up with an answer there. Remembering Mighty Number 9 that went through Kickstarter was seen as a spiritual successor to Mega Man, and a lot of people were very cross when that came out as well. Matthew, I can tell you that the correct answer is Mighty Number 9.
Oh, storming it.
On an absolute roll. So, Matthew, could I have my second Mystery Steam review, please?
Yeah. While it might be a morbid time to play this during a global pandemic, it's quite cheery and does a great job of being not very serious. Says Carrion Jr. They recommend it with 53.1 hours on record.
Okay, time starts now. These pandemic reviews are coming up a lot, aren't they? A morbid time to play this during it's alright, so it's about a pandemic, but it's quite cheery. A game about a cheery pandemic does a great job of not being serious. Oh dear, this is where I could really use my second opinion right about now. A cheery global pandemic. Huh. Pausing the timer at 57. Matthew, could I have the genre, please?
Oh, interesting.
Whilst
no one ever goes for the question. They always go for the genre and the second opinion before they get... Which makes me think the clue or the question is just not very sexy. This game is described as a business simulation game.
Okay, restarting the timer now. 2 Point Hospital?
Could be.
Playing this in a pandemic. This could be 2 Point Hospital. But you're being a little bit... You're pushing me towards that a little bit too much, are you? Playing this in a pandemic... What was it? Playing this in a pandemic is quite bleak. But it's very...
It's quite cheery. Does a great job of being not very serious.
I mean, this is 2 Point Hospital all over, surely.
Yeah, I think so.
If it... Such a bastard. What other business simulation games? Oh shit, I've stopped the timer inadvertently. I guess it's 2 Point Hospital.
Is that your final answer?
I clicked the button too early, Chris. But yeah, no, I'm fine. Yeah, that's 2 Point Hospital.
So, you're thinking pandemic? Thinking games with a pandemic in them? But also quite cheery, quite a difficult combination there to nail. The genre points you towards a business simulation game. Could it be 2 Point Hospital? Could it be another business management game about plagues? The correct answer is 2 Point Hospital.
Yes. I
could mind game you out of it.
You did very well earlier. Very, very well.
It's always hard when someone has a game that's already been done because you're like, it's there. It's like everyone can see it, and you've got to do your best to push people away from it. So I thought I'd lean into it this time. It did not work.
So, Matthew, for your third and final one, I am going to preface this by saying all you need to do is give me the series.
Listen, that's fine. You have to be generous. I'll do it, but that's very generous of you. But let's see how it goes.
Okay. So the review is as follows: sacked in the morning. I'm getting sacked in the morning.
Right.
And that's from Lima Foxtrot.
Shite.
It's recommended 237.9 hours on record, 200.5 hours at review time. So again, I think if you can just give me the series, I'll give it to you. So your time starts now.
Sacked in the morning. I'm getting sacked in the morning. Have I got my second opinion still?
You do.
Yeah, let's use that.
Okay, pausing the time.
I have no idea what this is. I'm getting it. Unless it's like a specific reference to something that would say, I'm getting sacked in the morning. I have no idea.
Pausing the timer.
I have no idea.
So the second opinion is no difference between this one and the previous one in the series. It's probably worse, but only slightly. I like the addition of XG, some other cool stuff, but also pointless stuff like changes to press conferences. And I still love this game and spend most of my free time on it, especially with lockdown and that. So that is your second opinion. Restarting the timer now.
I have no idea what XG is. Press conferences and getting sacked makes me think of some kind of football manager. But I don't know if there's a football manager which is a spiritual successor. Like sacked, that feels like a football chant. Like you're getting sacked, like that's what happens to football managers. They get sacked. But I don't know. Like there's like football manager. Is there a game also called Championship Manager? Is one a spiritual successor to the other? Which came first? I mean, football manager's a current thing. So that would suggest that you can't be a spiritual successor. You would be the last in the chain. It wouldn't be what came before. I'm just gonna, listen, I don't know what year this started. You've said series. That makes me think it is football. I'm gonna fuck that question off. I'm gonna say football manager.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
So sacked in the morning. I'm getting sacked in the morning. Little bit stumped, but the second opinion mentioned some XG bollocks. We're not too what's that about? But the press conferences, you were like, put that together with sacked in the morning, football, then you were going, okay, manager game, football manager, then championship manager, and you'd all these things floating about in your head. You've ended up on football manager, and Matthew Castle, I can tell you that the correct answer is football manager.
I know fuck all about football manager.
Well done. I'm actually delighted. I was really pulling for you on that one because, right? It goes, sacked in the morning. I'm getting sacked in the morning. Sacked in the morning.
Is that a chant?
That is a chant, yeah.
Who chants that? The person getting sacked chants that?
The fans would chant that quite meanly at the manager who they believe is indeed getting sacked in the morning.
I tell you what, I know those managers get paid a lot, but if I heard a load of people chanting about me getting fired tomorrow, I'd feel like, if that's how they made me redundant, I would have been really upset. You're like, oh, come on, guy. Like, no one wants their livelihood removed from them. No one deserves that.
So, Matthew, could I have my third and final Mystery Steam review? A little consolation goal.
Very different from the newer games. It doesn't have regenerating health. It has a different game engine. Combat flows differently, and you are a regular soldier, not a super soldier or a super agent, says A-Rec. They recommend it. There's only 6.5 hours on record. There's 6.1 at the time of review.
Okay, time starts now. It very different from the newer games. So this is older. It doesn't have regenerating health. Combat, you're a regular soldier, not a super soldier or super agent. So it's an older game in the series. But you are a regular soldier, not a super soldier or super agent. Oh. Alright, so what I have to do now is try and think of the games that I saw when I was looking up spiritual successors. Ukulele. Perfect Dark Zero. What else?
Perfect Dark Zero is just a sequel.
Or Perfect Dark, sorry, Perfect Dark.
Right.
Assassin's Creed. Oh, God. Having a mirror.
You got that question?
Yeah, do you know what? I kind of usually do this when I just can't think of anything else, so I'm going to pause the timer at 11 seconds. Matthew, could I use my question Was this game released in the last 5 years?
You always ask that. No, it wasn't.
Oh dear, okay. Restarting the timer now. You're a soldier. Oh, for Christ's sake. A soldier. Matthew, am I going to have to doom it for a second time in a row? Doom!
Oh my god, the double Doom! Oh, Colm, how amazing would it be if this was Doom?
For a second, I was like, could it be? No.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
So, it's different from the newer games. This suggests it's a spiritual successor, but it comes before some other games. I can understand how that might throw you. Doesn't have regenerating health. The newer games probably do. Has a different game engine. Combat flows differently. You're a regular soldier, not a super soldier or a super agent. You've gone with Doom? The correct answer is Call of Duty. Which I feel is a spiritual successor to Medal of Honor.
Medal of Honor, yeah. Yeah, no, I think that is fair. I just had a mare. I'm getting sacked in the morning. Sacked in the morning. But yeah, congratulations, Matthew, on your win.
Not bad for early in the morning.
Indeed. So that
when I'm not getting sacked.
That is Mr. Steam Reviews for this week. So now it's time to turn to you, lovely PC Gaming Weekspot listeners and viewers, for little burning questions. Yes, Burning Questions is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where indeed we turn to you for your correspondence, your burning questions. You can email us at any stage throughout the week. weekspot@rockpapershotgun.com. And Matthew, we have quite a lot to get through. So let's just crack on. And we're going to start off with Mog, who gave us 10 English pounds during the YouTube premiere of the last episode of the Weekspot. Thank you very much, Mog.
Thank you, Mog.
Mog asked, which actors would you like to see as the next James Bond and Bond villain? As always, thoroughly enjoying the show. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Mog. Matthew, you are the Bond aficionado. Who do you want to see as 007?
I mean, when they made Daniel Craig Bond, I couldn't really see it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he was a really good Bond. Like, I'm kind of open to. I'm sort of less interested in who Bond is. Sorry, this isn't a very good answer. I'm less excited to see who Bond is and what kind of Bond they have, because it doesn't really matter who the actor is if they, if the Bond's gonna be super serious or he's gonna be a fun Roger Moore Bond. I'd like them to be a bit I like sillier Bond, I like, slightly goofier Bond. In terms of who could actually play goofier Bond,
well, do you know, I don't know why I don't have an opinion on this. Do you? That's okay.
I feel like I love Bond. I just don't.
Do you want to know the betting odds? I have the betting odds here in front of me.
Give me a list. So this is the thing. Names are thrown at us, so you're meant to deal with the names.
The favourite at the minute is somebody called Renee Jean Page. Do you know who that is?
He's from Bridgerton.
Oh,
too young. Too young.
Tom Hardy is second favourite. Is Tom Hardy then a little bit too? With all due respect to Tom, is he a little bit too old at this point?
No, he's actually okay. Tom Hardy kind of is very Daniel Craig-esque. If you just wanted another Daniel Craig Bond, that would be Tom Hardy. I feel like he has Daniel Craig played quite hard-edged stuff before he was Bond, as has Tom Hardy. I don't know. I think Tom Hardy would want to be doing more interesting stuff than that.
Do you know what? Let's rather than look at the favourites, I've gone down to the 500 to 1 shot.
Okay.
Robbie Williams.
No.
Danny Dyer.
No.
Who else is 500 to 1 here? David Beckham, Eric Bana, Hugh Grant, Martin Freeman.
Oh, God.
100
Doing his little office looks to camera.
150 to 1, Harry Styles.
It's never going to be young Bond. No, like, I think Bond has to be about 40.
I suppose, how many films do you want out of Bond? Like
Only a couple. 2 or 3.
Okay. Well, yeah, I suppose then they could be 40 odd, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's difficult. Like, I just, whenever they suggest someone young, I'm like, nah. Like, that's the one direction I don't want them to take Bond. Like,
Harry
younger
Styles,
Bond.
One Direction, done.
No.
Done.
I tell you, it'd be a good Bond villain. Have you seen Parasite? The Korean
No,
film?
I haven't seen it actually, but yeah.
The dad of the family, he's a big Korean actor called Song Kang-ho, and he's fucking awesome in everything. Like, he's quite I find him quite charismatic, but he's played nice and he's played evil. He's quite sort of unreadable. He's got like his face can be very warm, but it can also be like quite hard and scary. Yeah, the thing I really enjoyed about the Daniel Craig films, I liked all the kind of Euro villains they had. You know,
Javier
I thought
Bardem.
they were good fun. Matthew Armerick and what's his face from Death Stranding, Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah, like, I don't know. I just like a Bond film set in, like, you know, amazing kind of Korean cities and stuff. I think they should do a big Korean Bond adventure for no reason other than I watch loads of Korean films and I always think, oh, this would be cool. This would be cool in a Bond film. And so, yeah, Song Kang-ho. Or have Song Kang-ho as Bond. Let's have a Korean Bond.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? And we have a
He
few.
looks awesome. He looks cool in a suit. You want a villain who looks cool as well, I think.
Not too cool though, because your villain can't be cooler and more appealing than your hero. They can be charismatic, but they ultimately need to be a bad guy, I suppose.
Do you remember that years ago there was I'm pretty sure it was a tweet or something that was doing the rounds where someone had this pitch for a Bond film about that the 007 was just, and James Bond itself was just like a title, and to kind of claim it, the new 007/James Bond had to kill the old 007 James Bond, and they suggested a film where to go and like kill, like, you know, an aging, you know, like Sean Connery would be the villain thing. I can't remember the specifics of it. If you search for some of those terms, you'll find it. That could be quite cool. I'd love to. I tell you what, if there was one thing in the world to be put in charge of, it would be James Bond. I'd love it. I'd love to write a James Bond film.
And we had a few other kind of super.
But I can't name a Bond actor. Sorry. Hopefully it answers Mog's question.
We have a few other super chats here that I just wanted to mention from last week. Mars IIIC gave us $10. Thank you very much, Mars IIIC. They said, I usually don't catch the premiere of these, but wanted to show my support. Catching the Weekspot has been a consistent and relaxing highlight of my week this crazy past year. Thanks both, XO. Thank you very much, Mars. Doug Diamond gave us $5. Thank you very much, Doug. Doug said, I suck at YouTube and have not figured out how to donate without saying something stupid. So here's your $5. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug Diamond.
And Fulkenbert, FLKNBRT, gave us 20 Swedish krona and an animated sticker of two fists doing that, like fist bumping.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, thank you very much,
Cheers.
Fulkenbert. What's the next question? Yes, YouTube moderator Ben, the lovely Ben, said, is there a better toast topping pairing than peanut butter and cream cheese? 2 slices of buttered toast, one covered in peanut butter, one with cream cheese. Ideally eat them by taking a bite or two of one, then alternate. Great stuff. Highly recommend. And Ben also added...
Thanks for the tip.
Ben also added, in Weekspot 33, Matthew said, if quote, if the giant vampire lady is alive after 4 hours, I'll eat my hat live on the Weekspot. So the question is, are either of you big hat wearers? Any official Weekspot headwear fashion tips for summer 21? Keep up the great work. Ben. Thank you, Ben.
I don't wear a hat.
Ever.
I've got quite a big head. So if I did, I think it would be like, it would just draw attention to that. Everyone would be like, look at that. The hat would be big because my head's big. And everyone would be like, look at that big hat guy.
What if you're,
and then that
what if
would
you're
lead
cold?
to, look at that big head guy. I don't want to draw attention to it.
But like, what if you're cold and you want like
I
a
have hair.
woolly...
Oh, no, never. I don't wear
Never?
scarves either. Never. I just go out there. I'm just like, you know, I got a big fat head. It insulates me with fat.
That's the most kind of like really macho thing. I feel like I'm the machismo.
Really? You think it's macho because I don't wear a hat and a scarf?
If it's cold, I feel like, you know, if it's freezing,
No.
you're like, fucking no, down with the establishment, you know, fucking.
I just don't like it itches my neck.
That's fair. That is fair. I enjoy an occasional hat, but mostly of the beanie variety. I can't say I'm, you know, I don't dabble in baseball caps all that much, but a tip for the summer, I suppose, would be a baseball cap rather than a beanie. So, you know,
this is great. Why do people listen to this show again?
Go old school.
My tip for a summer hat is the baseball cap.
Go old school and get a red baseball cap with an NY on it. Then you can be the lead singer of Limp Bizkit. That would be fun.
I used to think that was just advertising the concept of New York.
New York.
For ages, I was just like, wow, everyone really likes New York.
Well, they heart New York, I guess. Brymac got in touch. Brymac said, hi. My question is, what game have you played but regrettably never been inclined to go back and finish? Love the Weekspot. Thanks, Brymac. Thank you, Brymac. Any game come to mind, Matthew?
I mean, there's loads.
Yeah.
The nature of like reviewing games for a living means I'm a little bit like, move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Trying to think of things that I've played.
So one that comes to my mind is The Witcher 3. And I know that's a biggie, but I played it for about 15 or so hours when it came out. And then I sadly had to move country. And I did that. And it just, I don't know, it got delayed, as in me going back to it got delayed. And then it was just like, the time has passed. And if I boot it up now, I don't know where I am. So I'd have to start from the start. And yeah, I just I never went back to it. So yeah, that's one for me. Any? Yeah,
I think it's like regrettably is a weird one, because if I don't go back, it's because I didn't like it, probably. Like, yeah. I don't really give up on things. I mean, a series I always stall on is like Elder Scrolls.
Right.
I've never gone back to. Actually, I tell you what, one I do regret is I've never actually finished Fallout 4. And it's one of those things where if I turn it on, I'm like, I just can't remember who any of these people are or what I'm meant to do. Also, I think I was playing it on Xbox One. Like, do I even have that game, that save anywhere anymore? It's probably in the cloud, so the answer is yes. I'm just lazy. But yeah, I have no idea how. Have you finished Fallout 4?
No.
God knows what happens at the end of that game.
The next question is from Dirangutang, who says, do you have particular names or characters that you try to recreate in every role-playing game? And he also said, what is a food or animal in a video game that you would want to eat in real life? So I suppose, yeah, what's do you make a character in role-playing games?
I always call them variations depending on how many letters I've got of Basil Pesto, which is my Twitter tag.
Is that where it does it come from you?
No, I just, everything with me is Basil Pesto. I don't know. Well, there is a reason, but it's too complicated to explain here.
Okay.
But yeah, everything. Not everything. Yeah, most things.
Okay. I usually have great intentions of making my RPG character to be Omar Little, to the point where I'll create their face and I'll bring up a photo for reference. But Omar has the face of Michael K. Williams. But when I actually play the game, I often just end up being a sort of a Jack Bauer type, which I don't think is... I mean, there are similarities between Jack Bauer and Omar, but at the same time...
They've got very different energy. I've just started rewatching The Wire because Catherine's never seen it.
Ooh.
What a damn good show.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is great.
It's a good show.
I've forgotten how good it is.
And the food...
I'll tell you what, when I was watching The Wire, in that first season with like younger Dominic West, if back then they decided to make a Max Payne film, I would have cast him as Max Payne.
What about Bond? Would he ever get the Bond nod?
He could. I think he's maybe a little old now.
Back then, first season of The Wire, too young.
He was a little young then. Another 2010 Dominic West would have been a great Bond.
So we are sadly, and I know I said it was going to be a bumper edition of Burning Questions, but we're going to have to call it there because of other things that I sadly have to jump onto this morning.
We'll get through these questions at another time.
We will. We'll get through all these.
We appreciate them.
Yes, thank you very much for all your questions. We'll get through them over like the next episode or the episode after that. But yeah, keep sending them in. Weekspot at rockpapershotgun.com. So that indeed just about does it for this episode of the PC Gaming Weekspot. Thank you very much for watching, for listening, for consuming in any way. But if you are looking for more consumables, I suppose, there are other things you can consume, such as the Twitter feeds of Matthew and Colm. Matthew is at Mr. Basil _Pesto. I am at Colm _Ahern. You can follow us. You can talk to people on Discord, discord.gg/rockpapershotgun. If you want the video version of the PC Gaming Weekspot, head over to youtube.com/rockpapershot, where you can like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, all that type of stuff. But if you want the audio version of the PC Gaming Weekspot, subscribe to the PC Gaming Weekspot podcast, which you can find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., etc. But for all of your PC gaming needs, keep it on rockpapershotgun.com. Next episode of the PC Gaming Weekspot, Matthew, it's going to be a biggie because Resident Evil Village will have come out. We'll be able to chat about it. So,
will I have eaten my hat?
Indeed. Will you bring? Get a little hat chocolate thing or something. I don't know.
I'll find something in case I have to eat it.
Some hat related item. So yes. Now it's just time for my least favourite part of the show. This is the part of the show where I must bid the listener, the viewer, the consumer adieu. So say goodbye, Matthew Castle.
Goodbye.
And say goodbye, Colm Ahern, Sloan Gaffo.